Okay, so I'm going to read. I've been reading the intro to the Kali Oracle by Alana Fairchild, and I wanted to read some of the intro, so I'm going to do an audio with probably a picture, Kali or something. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just want to give a brief introduction, and she does a good job of that. I have loved Kali from the first moment I heard her name. Although I knew next to nothing about her, I felt a familiar affection for her at a soul level. I sensed a devotion to her that had spanned lifetimes and was awakening again in this one. I instinctively knew she was a trustworthy source of tremendous power and protectiveness. When I did see images of her, although they were confronting, I was not frightened. If anything, her ferocity made me love her more, because I realized I could be my gentle self, and she would show me how to access other ways of being when necessary. My response to her has remained the same. I bow with reverence, love, and awe in her presence, with complete trust in her wild yet loving divine nature. Even given all of the above, I knew that loving her was not always going to be easy. When we encounter Kali, we can be sure that whatever is unfolding will ultimately be to our spiritual benefit. Likely, the process will involve challenging, painful initiations. The pain is temporary and the benefit eternal. But when you are going through the agony before the ecstasy, knowing that may not be much comfort. One of the teachings of the wild Divine Mother is not to fear pain, but to find the courage to move through it. This does not mean enduring until we collapse in an exhausted, defeated heap. Sometimes we put ourselves through that unconsciously and even attribute our persistent suffering to the workings of Kali. However, I have found her divine handiwork to be rather more abrupt. It is the aftermath of processing that can take a while. A band-aid eventually needs to come off so a wound can heal. We may fear the pain and pull at it, feeling the prolonged suffering as hair by hair is pulled out by the root. However, if we take too long, we may miss a vital unfoldment of our destiny. Kali manifests to get us moving and will rip the darn thing clean off. There is shock, but if we can brave the pain, knowing that it will pass, we will truly release an era of suffering. Kali is not a goddess of half measures. When we are drawn to her, such as you are in choosing to connect with this oracle, we are at some level recognizing that we are destined to undergo significant transformation in this lifetime. Although we may feel willing or even inspired to embrace such healing alchemy, we know it can be challenging to overcome past patterns and not become lost in confusion or fear. We need Kali's wildness and protection to ensure we do not turn away from where the path is leading, or get stuck or distracted from what we need to do to activate our divine potential. Kali is a goddess for those who recognize that we have to be something of a divine badass to walk an authentic spiritual path. The spiritual path, for all its beauty, lightness, and grace, can be fierce as hell. Awakening takes courage. Although there is incomparable, sublime bliss to be experienced, the path becomes increasingly narrow as we make progress. We can encounter severe pains of soul birth as the body is brought to consciousness and the soul comes to life. Kali has unerring precision as to what is needed to break us free from our holding patterns to enable spiritual rebirth. Past patterns eventually give way under the spiritual substance she develops within our soul. The pain of healing could be compared to a trigger point in massage therapy that zones in on the tension and works it until it releases. The release can feel like nirvana. Beforehand, however, there can be intense pain, like the therapist who seems to be the cause of the pain, but as the agent assisting its release. Kali is never against us. She was always on the side of our sacred fulfillment. Awakening requires clearing the attachment to suffering. It may seem strange to think we could be attached to our suffering, but we can have a lot unconsciously invested in seeing the world, others, and ourselves in a particular way. It is a defense against deeper unresolved pain that we are not yet able to articulate, confront, and release. Kali provides experiences through which we can grow the courage, confidence, and skillfulness we need to acknowledge the underlying pain and heal. In clearing that pain, our hearts become freer and our minds more open. Access to divine wisdom can become more effortless as a result. So Kali makes the path to awakening more direct. The direct path can be tougher. It is harder to run straight up a hill than to meander around it. This doesn't mean that Kali deprives us of joy. Essentially, Kali teaches us delayed gratification on a spiritual level. For a lot of old souls, this is very important. Potentially, they have far-reaching work to share. And just as if they were going to plant a garden rather than a single plant, a lot more groundwork needs to be undertaken. Embracing a more direct path does bring its pleasures, and there will be more of them as we progress and feel the joy of no longer being bound by past pains. Sometimes we want to hide from a situation or evade our issues until we galvanize the inner resources necessary to deal with something difficult. That is okay. It is like stopping to catch your breath before tackling a particularly steep portion on the ascent. Kali is there with us, always, helping us build the strength and wisdom to know how to pace ourselves. She is never about punishing ourselves. As we deepen our relationship with Kali, she leads us beyond the notion of the most direct path into an experience of unconditional divine presence that does not need to be attained, but simply always is. In such a presence, the mountain to climb disappears altogether. All we need and seek rests within. Though we are yet to open our hearts and minds fully to Kali's grace, we may grasp the difference between the two ways of ascending the mountain. When the choices of ego are misconstrued as divine mandate, we might evade the benefits of Ma Kali's helpful tendency to rip off the band-aids. She is not in our lives to make things more difficult. She manifests to free us swiftly and with precision according to our particular capacity in the moment. I caught myself enacting a kind of psychological masochism when I was going through the breakup of a romantic relationship. Although I was the one to initiate it, I understood that he was not the right man for me. I had not yet fallen out of love with him. As any of you have gone through this will know, it is not easy. It is hard enough when you don't want to be in the relationship anymore, let alone when you genuinely wish there was a way it could still work, but know in your heart there is not. I did my best to break contact completely and have the courage of my convictions. Okay. It has prompted me to wonder what I was aiming for in drawing out my suffering. It seemed like something other than the simple need for more time to process the loss. I realized that there was a pattern at play from my childhood. Okay, so she's talking more. I'm gonna try to get. Let's see. It's a lot. Okay, let me get this. Kali's nature is that she receives and devours, and in doing so creates space. She is often depicted doing things like drinking blood, killing demons, wearing skulls, and waving severed heads about. She withdraws the life force. We might think that is bad, but when a traumatic pattern has us in its grip, we need the power pulled out of it. We need space to witness and understand and resolve things rather than being swept up and overwhelmed with no awareness at all. Trauma can be very, very difficult to heal. So Kali helps heal trauma by breaking it down so we can learn from it and be freed from it. She will absorb it completely, allowing us to regenerate into psychological and emotional patterns that are more conducive to our spiritual paths. Through Kali's spiritual intervention, we could feel like a completely different person. This results in vastly different choices and life experiences. Okay, let's see. At a material level, it can be terrifying. If spiritual liberation was so easy and enjoyable, we'd all be there already. We sometimes feel safer remaining in the cage even after it is kicked open by the Divine Mother. We may want to hang in there for a while. At some point, she may reach in, grab us, and stomp on the cage, signifying that a point of no return is now upon us. She may leave us for a time to work up through courage to make a move on our own. It depends on your relationship with her. Okay. Kali will spontaneously emerge for willing hearts, not only during difficult emotional challenges, but also when we are at significant soul breakthroughs. In fact, these things often go hand in hand. The unavoidable reality of karma is that we have lessons that cannot be avoided. Okay. The unavoidable reality of karma is that we have lessons. Okay. I've come across some awfully mean-spirited interpretations of karma. Okay, let's keep going through. In this day and age, when most people's minds are easily distracted with the ever-looming troubles conjured by ego, we need Kali and her kick-ass, cannot-miss, clear-cut spiritual directives and zero tolerance for manipulation, dishonesty, and inauthenticity. We need her ferocity, but not because we deserve aggression. There needs to be a more powerful voice of truth to cut through all the noise and distraction of ego, even if it means the goddess needs to shout and cause the world to tremble to gain our attention. Better than watching evil triumph over good because we were too busy trying to be nice or getting confused by psychological game playing. Kali keeps it real. She helps us learn how to not play games with our egos. When we no longer do that, those who operate under false pretenses cannot remain in our world. We see such behavior for what it is with far more clarity, and our tolerance for it is similarly non-existent. We may find that our nice self swiftly cuts off manipulating, insinuating, posturing without a second thought. Kali doesn't remove our love and compassion for people with such tendencies. She clears our enabling. Ooh, this is good. She clears our enabling of those behaviors in our lives. This benefits all beings. As she tends to appear when there is significant pain, some people unconsciously associate Kali with its creation, especially as she can turn up with a ferocious countenance. Kali does not create pain, but she does unveil it. She knows where it is within us, and at the right time, even if we don't think we are ready, she leads us directly into meeting that pain. Kali does this from love, so we can heal and become free. She is the liberator. She knows how to bring light from darkness. She is the one who shows us where we need to let go. Yet she always honors free will, for that is our divine birthright. We could push as many boots on our faces as we choose and believe that we need to suffer for as long as we choose. I cannot criticize anyone for doing this. I have gone through that and know all too well how tricky it can be to learn the master of the mind. To bring yourself gently but firmly from painful thought patterning into a new way. That is why I want to share ways to connect directly with Kali, for you to experience her grace to the devouring mother, munching upon ego, metabolizing it to regenerate, strengthen, and rebirth our soul. She leads us away from the pathways of suffering, whether created by others or ourselves, to where that pain can be the transformational grit that leads to increased freedom, authenticity, love, and grace. She is also seen and beloved as a giver of blessings, from protection to abundance to whatever the heart desires. When you ask Kali for blessings, we do so with the understanding that what she gives will serve the higher self. So you can ask freely and trust in what is bestowed, knowing that sometimes to receive the feast, that moldy chocolate bar you've been persistently holding on to since you were 5 years old is going to be ripped from your hands. You may need to mourn the loss, but that becomes a little easier and more graceful when you recognize the divinely delicious aromas of the feast that awaits you when you turn your focus from your past to the present. Okay, let's see. This is very long, so let me get to this last. Let's see. Kali initiates us into a conscious art of letting go. This is the difference between unconscious destruction and graceful release. Sometimes action is needed on our part, such as letting an employee go, confronting fears, or moving toward a goal that matters to our hearts. Unconscious destruction is rife in the realm of ego. The saboteur destroys a loving relationship through greed or dishonesty. The youth who lights a fire which spreads and burns down several homes. There is an unconscious desire for power, but as it is not paired with spiritual maturity, it causes havoc and suffering rather than growth and freedom. It is focused on power. Okay, so Kali helps us learn to discern. Oh, that's another. Yes. To know when to let go and when to refuse to give up. She is our guardian, our guide, our teacher, and our sister, mother, friend, watching over us with tenderness and fierce compassion in her all-powerful heart. She is our fierce guardian of last resort. She is the power that overcomes when gentler guardians cannot stimulate us into fruition. She is the definitive divine manifestation. Her ways cannot be derailed or denied. She will bring us to life, to love, to a sacred victory. Even when our worst enemy, so often ourselves, threatens to sabotage our spirit. As her divine children, we can trust in her implicity and bow before her power and wisdom. May all beings know her in the moment of need. Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Victory to the Divine Mother. May she prevail. Beautiful. Okay, just wanted to share that. Let's see, how long is that? 15 minutes. Oh my gosh. Bless your heart if you listen to this whole message. And okay, love you. Bye.